Thanks for visiting Patient Weather today. I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin. I'd like to talk about the weather health stress for March 10th, 2026. We do keep additional graphics available at tpatw.com, and we do encourage looking at the graphics is far better than my description. We also have a patient weather storefront on Amazon, and Amazon purchases made through our patient weather storefront do support the activities of patient weather. The surface map for Tuesday is rather active, with a major cool front stretching all the way from northern California across Utah into Nebraska, all the way up to Chicago and then up to Buffalo and clear on up to Bangor. There is another cool front hanging south from Wyoming, cutting across the Oklahoma Panhandle all the way to south central Texas. You'll note there is an amazing swath of unsettled weather. Lots of snow all the way from Washington, Oregon, across Idaho into Wyoming, especially cutting across South Dakota and all the way up through the Michigan Upper Peninsula. But moisture, lots of moisture, showers from Texas clear on up to Nebraska and across all the way through the middle Mississippi and Ohio Valley, and even some unsettled to severe weather stretching along, and a little bit of moisture right along that Canadian border. Looking at our vitality index, which is a measure of where weather could have a health impact, and you can see a significant area stretching from the Pacific Northwest across Idaho, Wyoming into South Dakota, and then hanging a bit just along that Canadian border in the Northeast. But we have lots of unsettled, unstable showers, thundershower, lots of activity going on in the southern plains, from Texas across southern New Mexico all the way into Kansas, Oklahoma, and stretching a little bit toward the Midwest. Looking at pressure change, amazing amount of rising pressure all the way from southern Arizona across all of California, Oregon, Washington, picking up in Utah, Idaho, Montana, and stretching east across Wyoming all the way through South Dakota. We also picked that up, a rising pressure, from the Michigan Upper Peninsula across to Buffalo and then right along the Canadian border, taking in a little bit of northern Maine. Looking at temperature change, while temperatures are relatively warm compared to the recent past, you'll see we do have some cool down trying to happen here in southern Idaho, across Wyoming into South Dakota, and stretching across Michigan, and then again along that Canadian border in the Northeast. And an unusual area of some cool down here in southern New Mexico, stretching across central, north central Texas, hanging right about Dallas. Looking at the dew point temperature rises, you'll see we are looking for a lot of activity here in the central plains, and note a lot of moisture stretching all the way across the Ohio Valley and actually from northern Georgia clear on up into Indiana and upstate New York. You can see that influx through the vapor pressure match, very much the same thing. Looking at lifted index, which is a measure of instability, and it's the likelihood for showers, thunder showers, even more severe weather. You'll see we have a lot of action going on here in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, trying to stretch on up into Arkansas, maybe even making the boot heel of Missouri. Looking at change in oxygen availability, you'll see we have a significant risk of migraine here across South Texas, southern New Mexico, and again in that little narrow band starting to shoot toward Dallas. But we also have that risk of migraine here from central California, clear on across northern Nevada into most of Oregon, picking up almost all of Idaho, but strong in southern Idaho and into Wyoming, also including portions of Montana, but getting very, very strong across Wyoming, South Dakota, even in Nebraska, cutting across Iowa, and then across Wisconsin, Minnesota, and into Michigan. Note we also have that risk of migraine hanging right along the Canadian border, once again Buffalo to northern Maine. Looking at the risk of asthma and arthritis, you'll see it's significant here across North Dakota, We also pick it up here in Kansas, into southern Iowa and Missouri and Arkansas. Significant here across the northern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, all the way into western North Carolina, but rather significant again here in Ohio, and cutting across Pennsylvania, picking up rather significantly for Massachusetts and just southern tier of some of the New England states. Thanks for visiting The Patient and the Weather. Your comments are appreciated, and if you hurt, let us know where you're located. And once again, I'll suggest looking at the map to get that idea of the differences between the risk of migraine and asthma and arthritis.